They told her to ignore the boy. He sat alone every evening. Never spoke. Never ate. Just stared. And when she finally broke the silence and brought him food, the next morning the town was silent. No cars. No people. Everyone was gone. Except her. And the strange kid at table 9. The town of Maple Hollow was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where the mailman waved at your dog and the gas station attendant remembered your favorite gum. It was ordinary, blissfully boring. For 24-year-old Jess Harper, it was just where she needed to be after the chaos of her past life in the city. Small town. Small diner. Small worries. Jess worked the late shift at Maggie's Place, a vintage-style diner that had somehow outlived everything else in the dying town. Locals said the neon sign had been flickering since the 70s, and even now the G in Maggie's buzzed like a fly caught in glass. It was part of the charm. That and the smell of old coffee and bacon grease that clung to the vinyl booths. Started 2 weeks ago. Boy. Table 9. He came in just after dusk. Always alone, always silent. Maybe 10 years old, no more. He wore the same clothes every night. A dark hoodie too big for his frame, jeans with one knee ripped open, and shoes that looked like they'd walked too far. Bill. Quiet. Eyes that didn't blink enough. And he never ordered a thing. At first, Jess had assumed he was someone's kid. Maybe waiting for a parent working a late shift or for a ride that never showed. But no one ever came. Not once. He just sat there. Sometimes for hours. Eyes watching. Hands folded. No phone. No book. Just stillness. The other waitresses began calling him the Shadow Kid. It was a joke at first. Then it wasn't. "Don't serve him," Carla had whispered once, pouring Jess a cup of lukewarm coffee at the staff counter. "Don't talk to him either." I tried once. He looked at me like he could see inside my head. I still dream about it. Jess didn't laugh and she didn't say anything. But she kept watching him. Watching it, some might have said. And then came the night Jess made her mistake. It had been particularly slow. Just one trucker in a booth near the window, snoring with his arms folded, and the kid, of course, at table 9. The rain outside clattered against the glass in hard waves, washing the town in streaks of shadow and red neon glow. Jess brought the boy a plate of fries. "I know you don't order anything," she said softly, placing the plate in front of him. "But it's on the house. You look cold." The boy didn't speak. Didn't move. Just stared. His eyes were too dark, Jess noticed. Not just dark in color. Dark like the absence of light. Like a well with no bottom. She smiled, trying not to let the unease slip into her voice. "My name's Jess. What's yours?" Was silence. And then, just when she started to turn away, his mouth moved. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. She blinked. "Done what?" "Given me anything." Jess felt the chill crawl up her arms. The boy stood, eyes still locked on hers, and left the booth. The bell above the door jingled softly as he disappeared into the rain. That night she dreamt of static. Not images. Not sounds. Just thick, humming static that pressed into her skull like a migraine. She woke up with a nosebleed and a hollow ache in her chest. The clock blinked 3:33 a.m. She lay still for hours, unable to move, feeling like something was breathing under her bed. The next morning was silent. Too silent. Jess noticed it first when she stepped outside and didn't hear birds. Or cars. Or anything. Just wind through empty streets. No kids waiting at bus stops. No mailman. No dogs barking. Nothing. She drove to work. Out of habit, maybe, or denial. The roads were empty. Even the traffic lights blinked pointlessly to no one. When she arrived at Maggie's Place, the neon sign wasn't buzzing. It was dead. The diner door creaked as she stepped inside. No one was there. Not Carla, not Ricky in the kitchen, not the usual early birds that ordered the same pancakes every morning. Nothing. The place was clean, untouched. Except for table 9. And the boy. He sat there waiting, hands folded just like always. Jess's voice was shaky. "Where is everyone?" He blinked slowly, as if the question were irrelevant. "They're gone," he said, tone flat. "Because you broke the rule." "What rule?" "You gave me something. Now I take." She felt her knees weaken. "Take what? Who are you?" He tilted his head. "It doesn't matter. You knew something was wrong. You fed it anyway." "This isn't real," Jess said, backing away toward the door. "This is a dream." "No," the boy said. "This is the part where you learn." And then, the lights in the diner flickered once. And Jess heard them. A step. Not outside. Not behind her. Under her. The floor beneath the diner groaned, wood creaking as if something, or many things, were moving beneath the boards. Scraping. Clawing. Breathing. Jess stumbled back. "What is that?" "The others," the boy whispered. "They've been waiting." Ran out into the street, panting, heart racing, but it was no better out there. The town had shifted. Houses stood, but they weren't right. Windows stretched too long. Shadows lingered where the sun should have fallen. And there was no sky, just an endless blanket of gray, pressing down like the ceiling of a nightmare. She banged on doors, shouted. No answer. Not even echoes. And the boy. He was behind her again, though she never saw him move. "Just there. You'll see them soon," he said softly. "You'll see what they've become." "Who?" "Everyone you fed." She didn't understand. Not yet. But part of her did. She ran to the sheriff's station. Me. To the clinic. Me. To the school. Me. Until she reached the church. The doors were wide open. And the pews weren't empty. They were filled with people. Unmoving. Mouths open. Eyes wide and glowing faintly white. Jess screamed. And every head in the church turned toward her in perfect unison. Even her own mother's. Jess stumbled backward down the church steps, her breath hitching as the collective gaze of the congregation bored into her. No one blinked. No one moved. They sat rigid, statues with breath, each face twisted in frozen awe or agony, mouths agape in silent screams or prayers. Her mother's eyes, once so warm and soft, were now pale pools of glass, glowing like moons without warmth. Jess wanted to run. Every muscle screamed at her to turn and flee into the endless gray haze that had swallowed Maple Hollow. But she couldn't. Not when her mom was sitting in that pew. Not when she had no idea what the boy meant by, "You'll see what they've become." "Mom," she whispered, her voice cracking with disbelief. "It's me, Jess." Her mother didn't respond. None of them did. And then, slowly, unnaturally, the heads turned again. Not toward her this time, but toward the altar. Jess followed their gaze, her steps hesitant, each footfall echoing across the wooden floor. The boy was standing there, hands folded like he always did, waiting. "You brought them here," she said, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. "No," he replied. "You did." Jess clenched her fists. "I didn't do anything. I gave you food. That's it." He tilted his head again, that eerie robotic movement that sent shivers crawling down her spine. "You broke the silence." "What silence?" "There are rules. Old ones. This place followed them for a long time. The people here, they sensed it even if they didn't understand. They never spoke to me. Never gave. Never opened the door. But you felt sorry. That's all it takes. Pity." Jess backed away. "Why here? Why me?" "Because kindness is a door," he whispered. "And now it won't close." Suddenly, the church windows shattered inward. Black crows, dozens of them, poured in, flapping and screeching, swirling around Jess like a living storm. She covered her face, screaming as their wings beat against her, their claws scraping her skin. And just as quickly as they'd come, they vanished. The church was silent again. The congregation gone. Every pew empty. Jess stood in the center aisle, blood on her arms, scratches down her cheek, staring in stunned silence at the vacant space that had held dozens of unmoving souls just moments before. She turned to the altar. The boy was gone. But a message had been scratched into the wood where he'd stood. "You fed the hunger." Jess ran from the church, the words ringing in her ears. The streets were changing, warping. Buildings stretching too tall, as if trying to escape something below. Windows showed rooms that didn't exist. Hallways that went on forever, staircases that ended in nothing. Time was breaking. She saw it in the clocks, each one stuck at 3:33. She saw it in the shadows, which moved even when the light did not. She needed answers. There was only one place left to look. The library. Maple Hollow's library was old, built in the 1800s. Even the town's oldest residents didn't remember a time before it existed. Some whispered it had been there before the town itself, just waiting for something to build around it. The door was open. Inside it was wrong. The library had always smelled of old paper and dust. Now it smelled like damp earth. Like something had been buried and unearthed. The lights flickered. Shelves seemed taller than before, their tops lost in darkness. Books whispered as she passed, whispers that sounded like her own name. Jess moved cautiously, running her fingers along the spines until one book practically jumped into her hand. The Hollow Rules. No author. No publication date. She opened it. The pages were filled with crude ink drawings, figures kneeling before a black silhouette with glowing white eyes. Boy. He was here in this book. Again and again. Each image showed people giving him something. Food. Trinkets. Words. Each act was followed by darkness swallowing them whole. And the last page held a phrase. Do not feed what watches in silence. Do not open the gate. Jess slammed the book shut, heart pounding. Too late, came a voice behind her. He turned. A woman stood in the aisle. Draped in a cloak of feathers and thorns. Her eyes were wide, unnaturally white, like every one of the townsfolk. Jess stepped back. What are you? The woman smiled without warmth. The librarian. I watched you open the gate. I didn't open anything, Jess yelled. I just fed a lonely boy. Lonely. The librarian chuckled. That's how it begins. He's always hungry, always waiting. He tests the fabric of the world, looking for kindness soft enough to tear. Jess shook her head, her voice hoarse. I didn't mean to. No one ever does, the librarian said. But your kindness was strong. So now, your punishment must match. Jess turned to run, but the floor beneath her cracked. Black tendrils snaked up from between the boards, wrapping around her ankles and dragging her down. She screamed, clawing at the floor as her legs sank into the shadow. Her fingers caught the edge of a shelf, but it splintered in her hands like rotted wood. Stillness. Silence. She was gone. She awoke. On the floor of the diner. Her arms scraped. Her breath shallow. It was night again. Rain tapping gently at the windows. The neon sign outside buzzed faintly. And at table 9, he sat, waiting. As if nothing had happened. Jess stood up trembling. Her body ached. Her mind reeled. But this time she didn't approach. This time she just stared. And the boy smiled, the rain hadn't stopped. It fell in lazy sheets, like the sky itself was mourning something long dead. Jess sat at the counter of the diner, hands trembling around a cup of cold coffee, watching the boy in table 9. He was just sitting there, silent, ill. But her bones screamed with memory. She remembered the vanished townspeople, the crows in the church, the twisted buildings, the shadowy tendrils in the library. She remembered vanishing, being taken, only to wake up as if none of it had happened. Except it had. She could feel it in her chest like broken glass under skin. She turned to the phone on the counter and dialed. 911. No signal. She tried her mother's number. She tried any number. Nothing. The phone lines were cut off. No Wi-Fi. No bars. The world outside had become a snow globe, sealed. A town in a jar. Jess stood. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. She moved toward table 9. He didn't look up. She stopped a few feet away, arms crossed tight around her ribs. What are you? She asked. The boy didn't respond. He reached into his coat and placed something on the table. Folded napkin. Red ink bleeding through. Jess picked it up and unfolded it slowly. You opened it. You must close it. Or you'll vanish next. She stared at the note. Her mouth felt dry as chalk. Close what? She asked. This time the boy looked up. His eyes were mirrors. Jess saw herself in them, but wrong. Older. Hollow. Screaming. The gate, he said. Her voice cracked. Where is it? The boy said nothing more. But he slowly pointed to the back of the diner. Pantry. Jess turned, staring at the plain white door. It was just a closet. Place for canned goods, maybe some broken dishes. Nothing more. But the moment she stepped toward it, her vision blurred. The walls around her shimmered. The floor seemed to breathe under her feet. And as she opened the door, there was no pantry. There were stairs, descending into dark. She turned back, but the boy was gone. Course he was. Jess grabbed a flashlight from under the counter. Her fingers brushed something cold. A small silver pendant. Her mum's. She pocketed it and turned toward the stairs. Each step creaked like it was crying. The air grew colder, thicker. The light from the diner vanished as the door slowly closed behind her with a whisper of wind, sealing her in. She descended into what looked like the bones of the town. Old brick walls covered in soot and moss, pipes hissing softly, water dripping from an unseen source. At the bottom she found a corridor, a hallway that shouldn't exist. The ceiling arched, covered in carvings, symbols, laws, hands reaching from fire. And in the distance, door, wooden, blackened with age, bound in chains. Jess stepped forward slowly, the flashlight flickering as she moved. Each step sent a hum through the walls, like the town itself was waking up again. When she reached the door, she saw it clearly. The gate burned into the wood in flaking red paint, or was it something else? Her hands hovered over the chain. Then a voice behind her. You can't close it alone. She turned fast, swinging the flashlight. The librarian stood in the shadows again, her cloak of feathers dripping with rainwater. I thought you wanted me to fix this, Jess said. I do, the librarian replied. But the gate feeds on two things, kindness and sacrifice. Jess's stomach sank. You want me to. You gave once. Now you must give again. She pointed to the pendant around Jess's neck. Your mother's token. Her love. It may be enough. Jess's hands shook as she gripped the chain. And if it's not? The librarian's expression didn't change. Then the town falls. Jess stared at the door, heart pounding. The weight of every moment pressing down on her. She thought of her mother's face in the church. The boy's voice. The napkin. The gate. The rules. She pulled the pendant from her neck. It glowed faintly in her hand, like it knew what was about to happen. Jess placed it into a small crevice in the door's surface, a hole shaped exactly to its form. The chains slithered like snakes and fell away. The door creaked open, revealing a void, endless, cold, whispering her name in 1,000 voices. Jess felt herself being pulled toward it, her feet sliding across the stone. She screamed, trying to hold on to the frame, but the wind was too strong. And then something grabbed her hand. Boy. His face was calm now. Human. You fed me when I had nothing, he said. I'll return it now. And with a final look, he let go. He was sucked into the void, the wind dying instantly as the door slammed shut with a sound like the world breaking. The chains returned. Silence. Darkness. Jess collapsed on the floor, sobbing. The flashlight flickered one last time and went out. When she woke, she was in her bed. Sunlight streamed through the window. Birds sang outside. And when she ran out into the street, people were there, laughing, talking, shopping. Her mother stood at the garden gate, smiling as if nothing had happened. Jess, you okay? Jess nodded slowly. But deep inside her she knew. Something had been taken, and something was still watching. For weeks, life in Elmridge returned to normal, at least on the surface. The sun rose and set, children rode bikes through the park, and the diner buzzed once more with laughter and the smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease. But Jess couldn't sleep. She'd wake up at 2:43 a.m. every night, heart racing, drenched in sweat, with a whisper still fading from her ears. The same whisper, the same name. Jess. As if the void was still breathing her in. She tried to ignore it, went to work, smiled at customers, served pancakes and poured refills. But something lingered, behind every corner, just out of sight. And then came the whispers during the day. She was refilling the sugar dispenser when the jukebox cut out mid-song, fizzled with static, and a deep voice crackled through it. You closed it but didn't seal it. She froze. Who's there? She whispered. No one around her seemed to notice. And that was the worst part. The world kept turning but no one remembered. Not the boy. Not the vanished day. Not even her mother. It was as though Jess had hallucinated the whole thing. Except for the deep, aching bruise on her soul. And the scar on her wrist from when the chain door had slammed shut. She still had the napkin. The one the boy had written on. It was crumpled in her apron pocket like a lucky charm or a curse. That night she returned to the pantry. No stairs. Just brooms and canned peaches. But when she touched the floor with her hand, it vibrated, faintly, like a heartbeat under stone. And then came the dreams. In her dream she was walking down Main Street. Dark. The moon hung low and red like an open wound. She heard the boy's laughter. But when she turned, it wasn't him. It was a man in a tattered black suit, mouth too wide, eyes too bright. Behind him, dozens of others emerged from the shadows. Smiling children with missing eyes, mothers with sewn mouths, men with broken necks and whispering tongues. They all said the same thing. You invited us. Now we live here too. Jess woke up screaming. She started noticing changes in the town. The old watchmaker, Mr. Calvin, stared too long. His eyes were black. Not iris black. Entirely black. A little girl at the grocery store walked backward the entire time. Her eyes locked on Jess even while her mother shopped, smiling with lips stitched closed. And late one night at the diner, she caught a reflection in the coffee pot that didn't match her own. It blinked 2 seconds too late. She tried to tell someone. Her mother just laughed. You've been working too hard. So she reached out to the one person she thought might still know. The librarian. The problem was, the library had burned down 10 years ago. But Jess returned anyway. She stood in front of the charred ruins. Covered bricks. A smell of old paper and something sour. She walked through what was once the front entrance. A breeze carried whispers across the bones of shelves. And then she heard it. The fluttering. Dozens, no hundreds, of pages turning. But no books in sight. She followed the sound through the skeleton of the building to the basement stairs. They were unburnt. Perfect. She went down. And there she was. The librarian. Sitting cross-legged on a pile of black feathers. Her head tilted, eyes closed. Her hands moved in a weaving motion, though there was no thread. I closed it, Jess said softly. But it's still here. Isn't it? The librarian smiled faintly. You closed the gate. But the door left a crack. Shadows pour through cracks. Jess knelt. Tell me how to fix it. You must find the echo child again, she said. He was the key. And keys belong in locks. Jess felt her heart skip. But he vanished. He sacrificed himself. Did he? The librarian opened her eyes slowly. Or did you simply let go too soon? That night, Jess returned to the diner. And there he was. Table 9. Boy. Exactly as she remembered him. Same coat, same blank stare, same silence. No one else in the diner reacted. Jess walked to him slowly, breath shallow. You're real, she asked. He didn't answer. Just slid something across the table. Another napkin. This time it read, one more sunrise. That's all you get. Jess looked up sharply, but the boy was gone again. She grabbed the note, chest tight, and ran outside. The streets were dark now. Not empty but wrong. Windows flickered with shadow puppets. People dancing on strings, faceless. The air smelled like iron and burned books. And then, the clock tower rang. 4 times. Each chime sent a pulse through the earth. Cracks formed in the pavement beneath her feet. And from those cracks they came. Hands, faces, shapes made of memory and ink and sorrow. They crawled out like spiders, smiling. And they spoke with the voice of the gate. "The debt is due, Jess." She screamed and ran. She didn't sleep that night. She waited for the sun. It didn't rise. The sky stayed black, stars smudged like ash. And in the distance, the gate hummed beneath her feet. The final part was coming. And Jess wasn't sure she'd survive it. Jess stood alone in the center of Elmridge, beneath a sky that refused to lighten. No sun had risen. The stars bled crimson, the clouds hung like bruises. Silence swallowed the streets, but beneath it, a vibration pulsed like a heartbeat, coming from deep underground. She clutched the napkin tightly, the boy's final message etched into her mind. One more sunrise. That's all you get. But the sunrise hadn't come. Time had stopped. No wind. No birds. No people. Elmridge was a husk of itself. Jess realized what it meant. This was her fault. The boy had opened a crack, a thin seam between realities, to escape them, the ones behind the gate. And Jess, with her human compassion and ignorance, had welcomed him in. Fed him, warmed him, connected with him. And when she closed the pantry, she sealed him out, but not them. Now the crack had grown, and the shadows were starving. She returned to the diner, but it was no longer hers. The door swung open on its own. Inside, everything was coated in ash. Cobwebs made of hair stretched across booths. The jukebox played a song that wasn't in any language she knew, a lullaby sung backward. Jess stepped inside. On the counter sat a cup of coffee, steaming. Next to it, the boy. No longer silent. He looked older now, his eyes more knowing. The kind of knowing that comes from lifetimes spent in darkness. "They're almost through," he said. Jess sat across from him. "You said one more sunrise." He nodded. "And it didn't come. Because this world no longer has time. It has you. I want to fix it." He stared at her. "You can't fix it. You can only trade it." Jess swallowed. "Then tell me the price." The boy reached into his pocket and placed something between them. Rusted. Shaped like a spinal column. "You take this. Go back to the pantry. You open the door again, not to close it, but to step through." Jess stared at it. "I'll disappear." He nodded. "But they'll go with you. They'll follow their crack. They always do." She hesitated. "And you?" "I stay," he said. "This world is mine now. They can't have both." Tears welled in Jess's eyes. "But you're just a child." "No," he said quietly. "I'm a reminder that kindness can open doors just as fast as cruelty." He stood up, touched her hand once. His skin cold, soft, barely real. "Thank you," he whispered. "For the pancakes." Jess walked back to the pantry. Every step felt heavier. The sky screamed above her in silence. Buildings bent slightly, as if the town itself was trying to fold in on her. When she reached the diner's back room, the pantry door was already open, and the staircase was back. Longer this time. Endless. She gripped the key tightly. Then she descended. Each step was colder. The walls wept black ichor. The air was thick and vibrating, filled with static whispers and forgotten screams. She reached the gate. A door made of bone and memory stood before her. Around it, hundreds of eyes blinked from the shadows, watching. She inserted the key. Click. The door opened, and the shadows surged forward. But Jess didn't run. She stepped through. Flash. Scream. Silence. And light. Not bright but gentle. The sun rose over Elmridge. A golden hue bathed the streets. Birds chirped. Cars rolled by. Laughter returned to the air like perfume. The diner opened at 7 sharp. Coffee brewed. Bacon sizzled. No one remembered the darkness, except a little boy at table 9. He stared at the empty seat across from him. A napkin sat on the table. On it, written in smudged ink, "Some doors must remain open, so others may stay closed." He folded the napkin gently, placed it in his coat pocket, and smiled, just a little. Outside, the sky remained calm. But beneath the town, far below the pantry, a whisper echoed still. "Jess." But only the shadows heard it now. And they wept,